This right here is my Steam client. It certainly looks like a Steam client, but something is definitely off here. Let me try again. It's definitely still Steam, but nope, this is still not correct either. Ah, here we go. That is the modern Steam client. But what was I showing you before then? Well, even though it is by no means new, it is new to me. A project called Millennium. Now, a lot of people have used this, a lot of people have downloaded it, a lot of people already knew about this, but I didn't. So presumably, some of you don't either. This is all open source and part of the Steam Client Homebrew project. Feel free to check out the code and all that good stuff. Of course, anytime you're running third-party code and it involves accounts you have, there is a risk of things eventually going badly. This project has been around for a long time though. It has been vetted by many people. It seems to be a good project, but of course, things can always be taken over. Things can always go wrong. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, I am running this on Linux, but this is available on both Windows and Linux. You can get the Windows version here. Linux is probably going to be packaged in various places. It does not work with the Flatpak or the Snap. Why are you running the Snap? Stop doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. It is garbage. The Flatpak, it exists. It's less garbage, but you can't use either of them anyway. So yeah. Also, any of the custom Steam installations on ARM-based systems, also not going to work. Now, Valve is working on a native ARM client, so when that happens, you know, for the Steam frame and various other things, then at that point, we'll see how things go. On Arch, you can grab it from the AUR. On NixOS, there is a flake, and for other things, you got to do the thing I don't like, or you can go and manually install it. I'm not a fan of the curl into Bash, but it's sadly a common thing to do. If you don't like this, go and package it on your distro's packager. If you've been using Steam for a long time, you might recall the idea of Steam skins. That's basically what we are doing here. It's just, nowadays we've moved away from the older VGUI, which is also used in games like Half-Life and things like that, over to the modern CEF-based web UI that you see today. But that does mean that even though there was a bunch of changes that came out that did ultimately break the old Steam skin system, with this one being basically the final nail in the coffin, it did spawn a whole new generation of people wanting to make Steam skins. Steam skins like the one I showed you earlier. Now, being a relatively new way of theming Steam, there's not a ton of themes out there, and some of them are better made than others. This one is really good. Of course, being a community theme, you might run into areas where, you know, there's weird contrast on certain things. I did notice a couple of areas where it was slightly off. Some things might not be themed, but it's going to depend on what one you want to use. So, if you want to do this, first thing to do is actually go and install Millennium. Install it with the instructions for whatever system you happen to be using. Windows there, Linux down here. On Linux, it is literally just installing the package, or, you know, installing it with curl into bash, and then restarting the Steam client. When you restart the client, it's going to give you a prompt saying, hey, welcome to Millennium. Now you can start doing Millennium things. Once you've done that, then in the Steam menu up the top here, you are going to see two new options, Millennium and Millennium Library Manager. The Library Manager is basically a selector for the things you have installed. Of course, with this being made with the regular Steam theme, you know, being expected, this is one of the areas where it's not done fully, so this theme does kind of break. But again, community themes and all that good stuff, you never really need to open that one though, unless you are changing the theme. If we go to Millennium, this is the general Millennium settings. If we then go to the theme section, then this is going to have all of the themes we have available. It doesn't have a package manager where you can search built in, but you can install a theme either from a theme code or from just loading in a local file yourself. So if you are maybe working on a custom theme, things like that, that's how you would load that. Or if you were to find a theme that is not on the theme store and want to load it like that instead. Now, where can we find most of these themes? So if we go to install a theme, there is a link right here, steambrew.app/themes. I can't actually copy it because the Steam interface, so let's go to that link. Here is our theme store. Now, the one I was just using, that is the classic Steam library. This is a Steam look between 2013 to 2015. This is when I personally started using Steam. This is the look that I have the most nostalgia for, and look, I'm a sucker for nostalgia bait as much as anyone else, and honestly, I think it looks really, really good. And it doesn't just theme Steam. It also goes and hides things which you don't really care about. So you know how there's that, like, activity thing at the top, and there's like, oh, here's recent stuff and news for a bunch of random stuff that you don't really care about. You never click on the thing. Well, here, it just hides all of that. It's just not here because it wasn't there back in the day. So why would you want it now? And you know what? I don't want it now, so this is actually a massive improvement to me. Now, sadly, it doesn't fix Shenmue 3 and make it a good game, but that's a whole nother story. So, if we want to go and install a theme, let's find one that I don't have installed. Let's say, for example, the Windows 95 theme, because yes, that is also a theme that does exist. If we go to copy theme ID, then we go back over here, go to Millennium, go to themes, and install a theme. We can then paste the ID there, download and install, confirm, give it a bit. It's done, and then we can use the theme. Changing the theme does require reloading Steam, so let's go and do that. I'm going to cut back to when Steam's back because Steam's having a fun time right now. That was not related to Millennium. That's just Steam sometimes. And here you go. Personally, not a look that I'm really going for. It's not a nostalgia I really had. Also, we're seeing a dark version instead of a light version. But I kind of get it. Let's go and take a look at some other themes. For example, the one I showed you earlier, that is known as Old Steam or Green Steam. Obviously, Steam has changed a lot since the days where everything was green. There is a lot of new interface elements, and really trying to make it exactly like it used to be just probably wouldn't be possible with the modern interface. I do kind of wish they went harder with it and tried to cut out just as much of the nonsense as possible and make it as like old Steam as you could. But it's not like that. But you could go and make your own theme and, you know, try to emulate that, get rid of all the cruft, and actually do that. We have fun themes like the Office 2007 theme. Now, why would you want your Steam client to look like this? Who the hell knows? I don't know. I don't want it. I'm sure somebody does, and if you exist out there, well, here's the theme for you. There's also an Aero theme, which is less Aero and more Windows Media Player. It exists. It does exist. Let's go to another one which exists as well, which I have no interest in using. Have you wanted to Adwaiterify your Steam client? I certainly haven't, but I know there's some people out there who really want everything to look like an Adwaiter app. Here's your way to do so. But there are other more general themes as well. There is Fluenty. This is inspired by the modern Windows design language, but isn't necessarily a modern Windows app. It's not my look. I get it. It's not my look though. Then we have things like Nevco UI, which is mostly modern Steam, but moves some things around, has a very different layout of things. I actually kind of like this one. I might have to play around with this one a bit because it still fits within that modern Steam color scheme. So it probably wouldn't break anywhere near as much. Then we have things like Zen. Because, of course, we have at least one kind of weeby theme. As you can see here, you can move a lot of things around. The update bar isn't at the bottom anymore. Now it's up the top, merged into the rest of this. So you can actually, it's CSS, right? Like, you can do a lot with this. And it also makes the chat kind of more like, not exactly, but kind of more like Discord looking. Then we have themes which have a singular purpose. No more what's new. It's a theme that just deletes the what's new segment because nobody looks at it anyway. Why is it there? It's just in my way. I do want to mention it here, even though it is not our focus. In some of these themes, you will see mention of another thing besides Millennium called SFP. That is this project here. It is another way to apply skins onto your Steam. I don't believe... Wait. Does it have... Yes, it does have Linux support. I don't see anywhere near as many people talking about this. When we are talking about modern Steam skins, Millennium is just the way that people suggest to do it. However, it is not just skins, it is not just themes. There is another option I didn't show you. Why is the window not open? If we go back to Millennium, we also have plugins. Do note that most of the people using Millennium, most of the people making plugins are going to be making them on Windows, so some of them might be using Windows functionality and might not behave correctly. If you want to install them, they're installed in the exact same way, though currently I am not using any, but there are some that might be kind of useful depending on what you are trying to do. For example, we have this here, size on disk, which I could have sworn was a feature in the Steam client. I thought it was, maybe it was at some point, maybe it's just a thing in big picture? Like, I know you can check the size. Maybe it's just only in, like, the storage management part. I don't know why it's not just normally there. Another one is Extendium. This lets you install web extensions inside of Steam. Don't forget that modern Steam is a web browser. It is literally just a web browser. It's based on CEF. It's not technically full Chrome, but it's still Chrome. It's just Chromium. And for this, I don't really get why you'd install it. There are things like SteamDB and other various extensions that might make sense. Besides that, though, it's not something I really see the value of. There are plugins like Steam Librarian, giving you additional functionality in your library for sorting the applications, sorting the games exactly the way that you want them to be sorted, adding a lot more functionality for this. Also, if you're a degenerate, csstats.gg extension. Directly on people's profiles, you can see their CS stats. If you're another degenerate, the same thing for Dota 2. And something far less degenerate, something which probably should just be built into Steam, a gifted notifier, where it tells you if the game you have is gifted. Why it doesn't do that? I don't know. I don't know why. It's nice. If you're wondering whether or not you're allowed to use Millennium, well, here's the Valve developer documentation. This is their page on Steam Skins, and it directly links to Millennium and talks about Millennium as the continuation for classic Steam Skins. So, yeah. It's just here. You can just go and use it. And if you want to help out, if you want to make some themes, you want to make some plugins, maybe there's some functionality you want, there are developer documentation for Millennium as well. This will talk you through how to do things and how to submit things and all this good stuff. Check it out. Generally, the best way to build a new theme or a new plugin is take something that is simple, which already exists, and then try to extend it, understand what different things are doing, and then go from there. Personally, I think Millennium is super cool, and I very much like having the 2015, 2013 Steam theme, so I'm probably going to keep it around. But let me know. Do you care about Steam skins? Do you just use Steam from the command line? I know you can do that. I've never even considered doing it. Let me know. Do you even have a Steam client? Do you play video games? Why are you here? Anyway, if you liked the video, go like the video, go subscribe as well. And if you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon subscribes Daily Bear Pay linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and that's just cool.